Good morning. We are in our third week of learning about the Zen commandments. And we're on number 3. And the third commandment, well, it's not a commandment, it's a suggestion. The third suggestion is to notice the moment we're in. Just like the song was talking about, that's where all the power is, in the moment right now. So the author deals with all of those things that bump us out of the moment, and we don't notice it. He's got this beautiful setup in the book. It's entitled Big Fred. I used to have an upstairs neighbor, an old overweight ex-boxer with bad knees, who worked as a janitor. Fred would generally come home with his groceries, a couple of 6-packs, and a stack of lottery tickets, while I was in the middle of my evening meditation. Through my door, I would hear his labored breathing and the clanking of his beer bottles as he struggled up the stairs. At first, I tried to ignore it. Now, mind you, this is in the chapter about loving kindness. He says, then, as the contradiction grew more embarrassing, came annoyance. Then I would jump up and help him, but resent the fact that my practice had once again been interrupted. Because I'm a slow learner, it took a few weeks before I realized. And so I brought his realization on a slide because it's so good. This is the practice. If I have to sit cross-legged on a cushion to experience boundlessness, that's a boundary. Hauling beer up the stairs is the meditation, and Big Fred is the teacher. Oh. You know, it reminds me of a story one of my teachers told me, and I try to remember the story at least once a year. It's the story of Sam in the ashram. There's this intentional community, imagine with me, probably just here in Sebastopol. And there's a group of people, and they're vegans, and they have a teacher, a guru, and they're trying to meditate and listen to the words of their teacher and eat mindfully. But there's this one person in the ashram, Sam, and he's just not getting it. He's that person in the class who's always raising his hands in the inappropriate time, asking the questions that don't seem to relate to the topic, and it's just driving everybody crazy. And he fidgets in the meditation. His cell phone goes off, and they're not supposed to have cell phones. And they're vegan, and they know he's frying up bacon outside of the... They know. They can smell it. And they don't understand why the guru isn't doing something about it. It's just becoming impossible to deal with. And so one day the guru goes shopping in Santa Rosa, and they see the opportunity. And they gather around Sam and say, Sam, you don't fit in here. You're not getting it. This isn't your thing. And the guru is too polite to tell you. So we're doing the kind of thing we're telling you. And Sam is astounded because he thought he was getting it. And he's crestfallen and he's heartbroken. And since he's hearing the message so strongly, he decides to pack up and go home. So he walks down the driveway of the intentional community and he waits for the bus. The guru comes back, drives onto the property, and gets out of the car. As soon as his foot touches the ground, he feels the shift in the force. And he says, "Where's Sam?" And they say, "We took care of it for you." He's there waiting for the bus. He's leaving. And the guru just goes running down the drive, and he gets to Sam and says, "Please, don't leave. We need you here in your current form. Because without you, we won't be able to practice our practice of keeping our hearts open and our minds centered on peace." Ooh. Do you have a Sam in your ashram? You're trying to get rid of him? when the authorities aren't paying attention. Oh, it's like the other story I love to tell about the yoga practice, the yoga studio with the flies and the noise. I was practicing yoga in Johannesburg, and it was in an apartment in downtown Johannesburg, and the yoga teacher, according to me, not very mindfully, left the windows open. So flies were flying in. And I could hear the traffic coming up, and here I was trying to be peaceful. So I complained about it, and she said, "That is very interesting." You want to practice being centered in peace, but you're more interested in flies and traffic. And she said, "You ought to be able to do your practice on Main Street." Oh. So there we have it. Noises and insects during meditation, irritating personalities, clanking sounds of beer bottles. These are the minor disruptions in the force field that bump us out of the moment. But there are other ones too, much bigger ones, that can have the same effect. I don't know if you read about it, but in April this year, in Kenya, terrorists shot 147 children in school. And just more recently, on Thursday, bombing in Beirut killed, I think, 47 people and injured close to 200. And then even more recently in Paris, 200 or something dead from terrorism. And when things happen like this in their horrifying way, it is the exact time to not abandon practice. Because if I have to have a perfect world in order to practice my faith, then that's a boundary. A boundary that's going to prevent me from doing what I say I'm here to do. So I turn to the well-known quote of Mr. Rogers. This is very well known and so helpful. When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, "Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping." I learned at the center to pay attention to where I am looking. Because where I am looking is where my consciousness is planted, and consciousness is cause. It's not that we shouldn't look at the scary things, we should. It's just that simultaneously there are also noble, powerful, decent, beautiful, meaningful, moving things that also deserve notice. We still have to deal with the terrors of the world. But when we plant our consciousness in what is also simultaneously good, that's when we feed our courage and restore our confidence in life and bring ourselves back over and over and over again to what is worth cherishing. Love, not hate. In the presence of incredible wrongdoing, I think we have to be careful about what we let shape our minds. Because if we concentrate only on the clanging noises, it is possible to get an unbalanced view of the world and even become like it. And we may even give our power away to that so that we reduce our effectiveness of dealing with it from love. Well, the Parisians are inspiring. They're using the hashtag porte ouverte, which means open door. And people all over the city are opening their doors to strangers they do not know, who are lost or terrified, so that they can have somewhere to stay. And cab drivers turned off their meters and took people home for free. And one person commented that the trust and solidarity shown in those open doors are stronger than the evil done that night. And even though the people of Paris have been told to stay home and stay safe, they are not. They are showing up, they are going out, they are helping, they are cleaning up, they are volunteering, they are donating blood. And buildings all around the world, the Empire State Building in New York, and the Wembley Stadium in London, and the Christ the Redeemer statue of Jesus in Rio de Janeiro, and the Toronto's Canadian National Tower, and Sydney Opera House, and the San Francisco City Hall, and the Angel of Independence in Mexico. All of them have been lit up in France's national colors of red, white, and blue. And, I look at that and think, wow, imagine lighting up our world like that for all of the people who are terrorized. Because my heart goes out to Paris, Beirut, Baghdad, Kenya, and on it goes. Our minister in Atlanta, Dr. David Alt, he put a call to prayer out. He said, morning and evening, let us join and pray with expectation for Paris, for Beirut, for the slums of nations who are starved for love, for you and I who cannot seem to reconcile our differences long enough to recognize our oneness. Please pray together. And here are the words he suggested we use, and I invite you to read them with me. All barriers to peace in my mind dissolve. All barriers to peace in my heart dissolve. All barriers to peace in my eyes dissolve. All barriers to peace in my actions dissolve. Divine order is here. Peace is here, and only peace shall remain. As I personalize this prayer, I participate in the restoration of our world. Amen, Ashe, blessed be, it is done. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And so it is from this moment forward. And the key words in that invitation for me is, for you and I who cannot seem to reconcile our differences long enough to recognize oneness. See, back to the beginning. If I need our differences to be reconciled before I can contemplate peace for you, that's a boundary. It's a boundary between me and what I say I stand for. It's tough. Let's look at those three minor distractions we started off with this morning to see if we can learn from the evolutionary pattern of actions in them. Big Fred and his clanging beer bottles. First, ignore it. Then do something about it, but with resentment. And then finally, do something about it in the spirit of, this is my practice, as if it is my religion. Second incident, Sam in the ashram. First of all, try to ignore it. Work around the irritation. Then, look for openings to turn him into the enemy image and get rid of him when authorities are not paying attention. And then finally realizing, have to embrace him, not as the weakest link, but as part of what is. Or the noise and the insects in the yoga studio. First, be distracted and annoyed by it. Then complain about something that really cannot be fixed. Until finally, practice your practice, even if the circumstances are not yet perfect. each of these small events and the larger events, the horrifying events, they can have the effect of knocking us out of the moment. That's what this chapter is about. This third chapter is about what stops us from staying in the moment. He writes, "The moment just before the car crash seems like an eternity." That's what people say. Perhaps it's because that moment and every moment is eternity. Only as the tires screech and we press back into the seat, we're paying attention for a change. So if you've ever been in a situation like that, maybe you've had the experience of witnessing time change. Sometimes it can be as slow as it can be and as fast as it can be. It all depends. But not only the terrifying situations, also the beautiful situations in our life. Like your first kiss. Or people tell me like the birth of your first child. Or like that moment when you accomplished something very meaningful. It was very important for you to accomplish it. And in that moment you realize that you've done it. In situations like these, when we are paying attention strongly in a focused, interested way, so much so that the past is forgotten and the future disappears, and there we are in the moment, and we get a sense of what timelessness may mean. He asks the question, do we need situations to be extreme in order for us to get a glimpse of that timelessness? Is it only the important situations that are available for timelessness, or can we live outside of those restrictions more? I think it's worth experimenting with, because as far as I'm concerned, each moment of life is precious. There really aren't any throwaway moments. How could any one of us possibly ever experience boredom? He says we could start by changing some habits. The habits that distract us from the beauty of the moment. So the examples are, don't automatically turn on the music or the radio each time you get into the car. Don't automatically check your Facebook status every time you wake up. Don't automatically turn the TV on when you find yourself alone at home. Don't automatically read a newspaper when you're on the treadmill at the gym. Don't do whatever it is that you automatically do. Instead, interrupt automatic and become present, interested in whatever it is that is in front of you, even if it's a whole bunch of nothing. I was in a waiting room, a doctor's waiting room recently, and I got to see the different styles of waiting. There was one lady who clearly was very irritated and anxious and needed to get going and kept on checking the clock and her watch in a very pointed way and then looking at the receptionist. There was another lady who was more resigned to the fact that she was going to be waiting, but she did it in a severe way. She was reading a book with severe eyes, and she had a cone of silence descended around her that was impenetrable. And then there was a third lady, and she seemed to have a secret because she seemed so happy, and she was looking around at everything and everyone as if she had been given the task to take a mental inventory of everything that was in that room, as if she was trying to memorize everybody's faces like she was going to be asked later to identify them. And this lady reminded me, Edward, don't waste time. Don't waste it. Don't waste moments. Stay interested. Even if I'm waiting in line to check out somewhere, don't waste that moment. Be alive. Be conscious. Be present. Experience. Feel. See. Because sometimes I'm not like that. Sometimes I think of those moments between the big events of my life. They're like dead time. There's breakfast. Yum. Then I'm at the office, which is interesting and engaging. But what happened in between? I don't know. I missed it. I wasn't present. The author says, but what if there is no intermission in life and the show never stops? Then every single moment is the only moment. Are you there? He tells a joke. A man walks into a bar and he sees a sign that says, "Free beer tomorrow." So he goes home expectantly, and he can hardly wait. And he comes back the next day, and he says, "I'm here for the free beer." And the barman says, "Read the sign. It's free beer tomorrow." When I live my life for tomorrow, I often miss what's available today. Peace may very well come to the world tomorrow. But for today, can I be kind? Can I be present? Can I be collaborative? Can I listen to other people's disagreements? Can I soften my heart? Can I visualize peace for others today? I think I was more interested in the present before. I kind of lost it a little. I used to love unwrapping presents, gifts. I used to do it with glee. I would take every little piece of tape off and open the paper. I want to save the paper and get to what's inside. I loved that. And would drive my friends crazy. They'd say, just open it, tear it, get to the... And so I did. I learned how to be more efficient opening gifts. Just get the job done, open the present, move on. There are things to do. Got to manage your time so you can do more. No, but I think I'm having a change of heart again. I seem to want to do less and to do it more better. Do it more soulfully. Do it more slowly. He asks, what would happen to us if we savored more moments? If we were available for them. Several years ago, I took 50 of us Americans from the center to Africa on a tour. It was wonderful. And in the wilds, in the game park, the Veld, we were on these open air jeeps, 8 of us at a time in it. And off we would go out into the wild to see the animals, because the idea was to see the big five, that all tourists want to snap their picture of. And do you know that on the first day out in our particular vehicle, we saw all 5 of them in the first morning? It's unheard of. It's unprecedented. We were amazed. So when we got back to camp, we had a little meeting and we said, what if tomorrow when we go out, we leave our cameras in camp? And we were like, whoa, I really don't know. But we agreed. We did. What an experience. Because we were not distracted by capturing and preserving and projecting, we could feel the wild. We could hear differently. Do you know that I remember that ride more vividly than I remember any of the photographs I took the day before? It's imprinted in me as an experience. Later, some of the people on the Jeep confessed that they had emergency cameras in their backpack. Isn't that cute? Just in case, Our founder, Ernest Holmes, said, if we were to attempt to put a finger on any period of time, it would be gone before we could point to it, for yesterday is gone, and tomorrow has not yet come, and today is rapidly slipping past. In other words, now is a moment we cannot locate. It's not an event. It's an experience. It's more like a feeling of being interested, present, watching, inwardly still. And it doesn't mean dropping out of life. And there isn't a kind of dullness or a lowering of aliveness, just the opposite. It's more aliveness. You know, our culture, it fills up every moment and every space with sound and information, reminding us to buy things, reminding us to not miss out on things that are coming, and reminding us what to feel about this or that, in case we didn't know. Now that can lower aliveness. That can distract if we don't pay attention. You know, I think that it's my opinion that we have got to be very careful that we don't let the media or Facebook or our culture decide for us where to put our attention. We have to decide. And what do you do if you find yourself momentarily, you stepped away from the moment? Well, you know, you come back gently. That's what you do. What I do, if I catch myself, I just say the words I learned here. If I spot I've departed from the moment, I just pause for a moment and I say, there's only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. That's all I say. It's a beautiful formula to bring me back home. And you know, I need it frequently. I mean, think about it today when you leave. How much busyness are you going to be exposed to? And are you going to drop right into it? You may have to do what I do. I have to give myself the gift frequently of mindfully pausing and doing something. Like, for example, praying for peace, for Paris, for Beirut, for Baghdad, for Kenya. Sometimes what I try to remember to do is to give myself the gift of having a deep, slow conversation with a friend where I share my vision of a world that works for everyone, and I practice being interested in their point of view. Or sometimes what I have to do is I have to go sit somewhere and practice taking it in with interest, whether that's in a garden or in a mall, but taking it in and marveling at the miracle of just being here at all. The impact of just a few minutes like this of becoming present is so beneficial, and it refuels us so that we can meet the challenges of our world from sanity. I'm going to read the words of Dr. David Olt's prayer again, and I invite you to breathe in and exhale, letting your eyes close, and see if they settle in you as well. All barriers to peace in my mind dissolve. All barriers to peace in my heart dissolve. All barriers to peace in my eyes dissolve. All barriers to peace in my actions dissolve. Divine order is here. Peace is here. And only peace shall remain. And with these words, I am reminded that I and you and all people have within us an infinite reservoir of loving kindness waiting upon us to use and express. That we do not create the peace, it is already there, we express it. And so it is that I call upon myself to take a stand in the world for peace and to remember that my peace and my loving kindness is not dependent on any outside circumstance. As I remember that, it is as if I am restored in knowing the truth of my being. And so it is.